welcome to beautiful northern Alberta. It's a beautiful sunshiny day, and today we're going to do a little bit of work. Sorry about my appearance, but it's like 90 degrees, and you know, if you're from Alberta, if you know anything about Alberta, you know that it goes down to minus 40 degrees. So when it's plus 90, it's a pretty hot day for us folks up here, and we get about 3 days a year like that. No, I'm just kidding. We get a few more than that. But anyway, it's a gorgeous day, and what I've decided to do today is we're going to restore or refinish a board here. Now this is a sandwich board that I use for a sign, typically of like a sidewalk type sign, and it's gotten to be a little bit ratty over the years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refinish this, and so we're going to clean it up, and then we're going to repaint it so that it looks nice, and then we're going to take a sign, if you like, and we're going to put that back onto the board, something like that. Okay, so anyways, so for today what we're going to do is we're going to have our sanding machine. Okay, you can use a hand sander, or you can use an electric one such as I have here. We've got some cleaning material, so paint thinner. We've got a pair of pliers. We've got a stick for stirring our paint. We've got a brush, and we've got a little container for cleanup after a little bit here. We've also got a screwdriver here so that we can open our can of paint, and of course our paint itself, which in this case is just going to be white. So hang in there, we're going to clean this up, and then we're going to paint it. Okay? Okay, so we painted this once before some years ago, and now we're just, you can see it's chipping and the paint's chipping away. So we're going to take our sanding machine here, and we're going to sand away some of the material, the loose material, so that when we repaint it, it doesn't chip off. Okay, it's not going to come perfectly clean probably, but that's okay. If the paint is good and solid on there, then we can repaint over it, in this particular case at least anyways, and it'll still work out all right. Okay, so we're going to get started. Alright, so you can see this now starting to peel away. You can see down here, this used to be almost white here. Now this is starting to peel away pretty good. So as you can see, using a power tool for something like this is a lot easier job than trying to do it by hand. So I'm thankful that we have power, and somebody invented this type of equipment for us. So that's a power sander. So we're going to keep working on this and try to get this cleaned up as much as we can. Whatever paint's going to come off, we're going to try to get it off like we did down here. And if there's other parts that stick and are solid, then we're going to leave those on, and it'll be fine. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes to show you what we've accomplished here. Okay. Okay, good. So we've done most of the work here now. As you can see, a lot of this has come pretty clean, and there's still some left behind here, but this is pretty tight, so I think we're comfortable with leaving that. Also, I know that the sign that's going to go on here is going to cover most of this space anyways, so what's behind here doesn't really need to be painted as such, but we're going to cover it anyways, and help so when it rains and that sort of thing, that doesn't soak into the wood as much. Okay, so this side is done, so now we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the other side. And I would encourage you to keep working at this. As long as you got paint coming loose, then keep working at it until you get it right down to the wood. I mean, this is ultimately the best way to have it, because anytime there's paint left over, if it's loose at all, it's going to peel there, and we don't want it to peel at any point. So make sure you clean it up good. Take the time to do that. I was on this for about 10 minutes since I saw you last. And so this is cleaned up, and I'm pretty much satisfied with it. There's a couple little spots I still want to work on, but basically that's we got it covered for now. So we're going to flip it over and do the other side, and then we're going to paint it and make it look a little bit better. Okay? All right, welcome back. We've flipped the board over. We've again we pulled out all the little staples and screws that were stuck in the board in random places from previous signs that were in place. So now we can take our sander and begin to go over it and begin to clean it up. Okay, so we're going to get started on that right now. Okay, we're back, and we've taken the sander and we've cleaned this side up here pretty good too. And as you can see, there's this paint here is actually still pretty tight on here. It's a few little chips coming off, some along the bottom here. For whatever reason, this side of the sign didn't weather as severely as the other side, so this is still fairly tight. So again, we did around the edges here. The sign's going to cover a large spot in the middle here, pretty much 2 by 2 here. So there won't be much on the ends, showing a little bit on the sides. So that looks pretty good. So we're going to go with that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to gather up our paint and our brush in that container and a screwdriver so we can open the paint, the stir stick, and then we're going to get that going, and then we're going to restore some paint onto here, okay? Okay, so I checked the paint, I opened it up and I checked it, and it looks good. It was an older can. I wanted to make sure it was still good paint. It looks good, but it needs to be stirred. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix, shake it, and just like they do in the store, you're just going to rattle that thing, or take your stir stick, if you like, and stir it, but it needs to be stirred, and mix the oils back into the paint. Okay, so we want to take a few minutes to really shake it up and make sure that it's mixed properly, okay, before we start, okay? All right, so that looks good. So I've opened up the paint can and we're ready to start here. I've got my brush, got my rag, and got my safety glasses on, as you can tell. Make sure you wear your safety boots, your hard hat, your coveralls, your safety glasses, and your fire protective coveralls, you know, all the different things that you need to be safe doing this job. And in the meantime, just one little tip for you here. With this particular brush I've got here, just a regular paintbrush, nothing special about it. This is not special wood. So it's a 3-inch brush. But one little tip there for you, just before you get started, is if you take your cleaner, your paintbrush cleaner, before you stick this into the paint itself, just dip it into the cleaner one time and let it get covered with the cleaner, and then dry it off with your rag or whatever. Now you can dip into the paint, and then when you go to clean up, it's going to be way easier for you. If you just take a dry brush and stick it into the paint, it tends to stick to the bristles completely, and it's very difficult to get it out later on. Okay, so just a little tip there for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to dip into the paint here a little bit, and we're going to begin to paint over our sign. And we're just going to go up and down, nice, easy, gentle strokes, and we're going to follow the grain of the wood, and we're just going to go back and forth, up and down, all over, and we're going to cover the entire board with paint, nice and thick. Good solid covering. As you can see, that's starting to take some shape there. And make sure you get it into all the cracks and the crevices of the wood, depending on what kind of wood you have. You know, if you have a nice smooth clean wood, then it's going to be a lot easier to do. If your wood is a little bit old and not so good like the one I'm using here right now, then you have to take a little bit more time to work the paint into the wood. So let's go ahead and finish painting this side and see what it looks like, okay? All right, here we are, we're back. So we've taken a few minutes here. It's took about maybe 5 minutes or so to take our brush, and we've painted over the entire board, as you can see. And what I've done is I've taken a little bit extra time. There's some cracks, as you can probably see some marks here. I don't know if you can see them or not here. And I've taken actually quite a bit of paint to fill in some of these spots. But we're going to fill the cracks so that if it rains on it and it gets wet, it'll shed the water properly. And probably going to get a little bit of running here because I've put a fair bit of paint on there, but it doesn't look too bad. For what it is at this point, it looks like it'll probably be okay. So we're finished this side, and I'm going to turn it around and we're going to paint the other side, okay? So here we have our other side here now, and we're going to dive in with the paintbrush and we're going to give that a nice coat of paint. Okay, so we've painted the board, as you can see. We've got it painted now, and because this is an old board and it's dried and it's cracked, the paint is absorbing into the wood quite a bit, and that's a good thing. We'll let that happen. So we're just going to give it a couple of minutes. You might be able to notice that there's some cracking showing down along the sides here, different places. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that soak in a little bit, just for a few minutes, so it just gets a little bit tacky. And then I'm going to put a second coat on it, just to fill in those cracks and make sure that the wood is sealed properly. I've done along the top edges. You can do along the side edges as well and do your entire board. And then make sure that the more paint that you put on here, the more likely it's going to keep the rain and the moisture out, and it'll just last a little bit longer. Okay, welcome back. So we're done now for the most part. I've let it sit a little bit, and I've gone over with the second coat. I've cross-grained with the brush to get into the cracks and fill in some of the larger openings with paint. And then I've gone with the grain and smoothed it all out, looking for different runs and watching out for, you know, different bits of lumps and dirt and stuff like that that is just blowing around in the air. Sometimes the bugs fall on it too, so that doesn't help really. But in this particular case, it's not supposed to be a work of art. That's not the intention. It's just supposed to clean it up and make it look a little bit better. So we've accomplished that, I think, pretty good. And I've also gone back to the other side and put a second and third coat on there as well. So I think we're done there now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our brush and we're going to put it into our cleaning solution, our paint thinner, to clean our brush. Put the lid back on your paint, and we're going to clean up all the tools and put everything away, and we'll be wrapping it up here, and that'll be done. So that's an overview of how to restore an old piece of wood, in this case a sign, sidewalk sign, to having it look a little bit better. Now we're going to have a custom-made sign that we're going to actually apply to the wood and post it on the wood here, and that'll just make it look a lot better. So thanks for joining me. Take care, enjoy your day, and God bless.